Okay, so I'm going to show you guys real quick here how to install and set up an invoicing app that you can use for creating invoices for your clients and also sending them invoices if you'd like. It's pretty simple. First you have to download the app through the App Store, so it's going to be Google Play Store if you're running Android, or the Apple Store if you have an iPhone. Just open that. Type in Invoice Mini. That's the app I've picked for this. I think it's going to be the most simple, straightforward one to use. It's free and it doesn't take up very much space on your phone. So when you look it up, you'll see the black icon with the red arrow on it here. It's by Make Use Of, is the app creator. So open that one. Just hit install. It'll download it to your phone, install it, and it should automatically create a shortcut on your home screen so you can open it using that same black icon with the red arrow anytime you need to make an invoice. So from here you can just hit open. It'll load it for you. And then there's no account or anything to set up here, so it'll just bring you to the invoice page, and we'll go through how to make your first invoice real quick. You just hit the blue button at the bottom where it says New Invoice, and it will bring up client details. Since this is our first client, you'll have to put in new client details. I'll use Mickey as an example. So for the company name, it's just going to be the name of the person that you're billing. And then if you have their email address, you can put that in here, and then you'll be able to email them a PDF copy of the invoice directly to them. If you don't have their email address, you can also just put in your own email here, and it will email you a PDF copy, or you don't even have to email it to yourself. I'll show you what to do here in a second. If you don't have their email, you can just use your own, and I'll show you how to get it to them in another way. But let's say that you do have their email, and so I'll use the office one for this one, and then their billing address you can put in here too. I'll just use the mailing address for the office for the example. Southwest Capitol Highway. And then I'm not going to put the whole thing in there because we don't need it, but you can put in their address there. Then it takes you to invoice details. It's automatically going to say invoice number 1 or whatever number invoice you're on here. You can change this to whatever you want. If you want to say invoice number 1 for the client name, if you'd like, or whatever makes it easier for you to read. And then it has the option of invoice date. It will automatically set to the date that you're creating the invoice. If you need to change that for some reason, you can just tap on it. It opens up a calendar. You can use the left and right arrows to scroll through the months, pick a date, hit OK when you're good with the date of the invoice. The due date is normally going to be automatically set to 1 week from the invoice date, but you can make that whatever date that you've agreed, that the client has agreed to pay you by. If it's some other date, just choose one, pick OK. And then under item name, this is where you can set your hourly rate and the amount of hours that you work. So let's say you're at $25 an hour, just put in 25. If you need it to be 25.50, you just want to hit 25.5, etc. And then quantity of hours, let's say it was you worked for them 20 hours that week, or whatever amount. It'll automatically do the math for you on there, so $500 for your total price. If you were doing like a flat rate 24-hour shift, and let's say it was a $450 flat rate, you just put that in for the price, and then quantity 1 for the 1 flat rate. And then if you scroll down, you'll see there's like a notes field. If you have something specific you need to mark in there, you can do that, but otherwise just leave it blank. I don't think you guys will be figuring in tax, since that's usually done with a payroll service. So we're going to ignore that for now. We'll just hit next. And then since this is your first invoice you're making, you're going to have to put in your company info. So you want to hit the fill with a little pencil at the very bottom there. And this is going to be your own information that will show up on the invoice for your client. So company name, don't put caregiver connection since you're not working for us, you're independent. You want to put in your own name here since it's just going to be you billing them, not us. So I'll put in April here, and then the field below it is just going to be your name again, since you're your own company for this purpose. And then your own address, I'll just put in the company's, the caregiver connection one, just again for our example here. Southwest Capital. And then Portland, Oregon, and 972. And then your own phone number in here for the client to contact you. It does require that. I'm just going to put in the office number. For our example, company registration number is not something that's required. You can ignore that. Payment details, however the client's agreed to pay, you can put that in here. So let's say they've agreed to pay by check. You can put that in here. And then just press save. And now it'll bring you to the preview invoice. So your invoice is ready. If you want to check it for any errors or anything, just hit the purple button in the middle with the little magnifying glass. And that brings up the invoice, so you can see it has whatever you've chosen to name the invoice. Here I have invoice number 1 for Mickey, and then to the right of that, it'll have your own company name, so your name, your address, your phone number, and then to the right of that, the date the invoice was created and the date that it's due, so the date they've agreed to pay you by. And then below that, billed to, and that should be the name of the client that's responsible for the bill and their address, and it'll show the hours that you worked, your hourly rate. In this example, we've used the flat rate of $4.50, so one flat rate for $4.50 there. Your total, there's not going to be any tax in these, so the total's just going to be what it says, and then any payment details at the bottom, pay by check. So once you're happy with your preview, you can hit the top left button with a little arrow next to preview to go back to the send screen. And let's say there was some kind of mistake on there and you need to change it before you send it to them. You can hit that same back button at the top left next to preview invoice to go back, change any details if you need to change something on the invoice, like your hours or your rate or the due date, anything like that. Or you can hit back again if you need to change something about the client details. Once you've made any corrections you want to make, you can hit next again, back to your preview invoice, and it is ready to send. So you can either hit send now and email it to them, and it'll go right to their inbox. They'll get a PDF copy of it to look at. Or going back to what we said before, if, let's say you didn't have their email, in that case you would just have put your own email in for the invoice, and in that situation it would, when you hit send, it's going to send it to your own email. But what you could do instead of that is hit the button below it that says save. So it'll bring up your invoices here, and you can just tap on the invoice to open it. Again, it'll give you the option of hitting send now, but let's say in this example the email that you have in here is just your own email. So, but let's say you have their phone number and you could text them the invoice. So to do that, you want to use these top three dots at the top here, this little icon next to invoice. That'll open a menu where you have the option reuse, share, print, or delete. If you have remote printing set up to your phone, you could print it that way, but for simplicity, we'll say that you're going to text it to them, so you want to hit the share button. And once you do that, it'll bring up some options here. If you open your messages icon, it'll bring up your text messaging app. And from here, you can just put their phone number in, and it will text them a picture of the invoice so that they'll have it right on their phone. So if you don't have their email address, it's okay. You can still text them a copy of the invoice, and that's totally fine. But we'll go back to here. If you do have their email and you put that in the invoice information, you can hit send now. And it'll bring up your email app on your phone, so you just want to make sure that you hit send within the email app, and then it'll bring you back to the invoicing app. So you sent them a copy, and you can hit the back button to get back to your invoices. You'll still have that copy in your own record, so if for some reason, let's say you sent it to them and they say, well, I never got it, you can open it again just by tapping on it, hit send now again, or maybe you got the email wrong on it and you need to correct that. So in that case, you want to open this menu again and hit reuse, the very first option, and then go back to the client details, put their email address in. If you've got a better email or a correct one to use for them, you can put that in there, and then go back through and it'll send them the same invoice that you tried sending them before, and you can hit send now and just hit send again. Okay, so then it will save every time that you send an invoice, and really that's all there is to it. If you go to this menu, this little white icon with the three lines above invoices, that'll bring up, you have the option of going to your invoice menu, which is the one we're on right now, or you can go to clients, and let's say you have multiple clients that you've invoiced in here, you can hit the search box and search them by name to bring up invoices that are only to those clients. And then there's the settings. This you really don't need to mess with. The template that comes default will work just fine. User company info, this is your own information if you want to open it. Let's say you change your address or your phone number or something like that. You can change that in there and just hit save when you're done there. And really that's all you really need to know for this app. It's pretty simple and straightforward. If you guys have other questions, you can always email the office or call my Google Voice number, or talk to Jen, and she will have me call you guys. But other than that, this should make it really easy for you all to keep track of invoicing your clients, and also saving records on them as well. And again, it's free to use, doesn't take up much space on your phone. So I'm hoping that this will make it easier for you guys to track things. Let me know if you have any questions.